You don't realize it yet, but overthinking is quietly controlling your life. Not in a way that people can see, not in a way that looks dangerous from the outside, but internally, it's exhausting you, draining you, slowing you down every single day. You wake up with thoughts already running, you go through your day distracted, and at night, when everything is finally quiet, your mind becomes the loudest place in the world. And the worst part? You think it's normal? You think, this is just how life is. But it's not. What you're experiencing is not clarity. It's not deep thinking. It's not intelligence. It's a loop that keeps repeating the same thoughts, the same fears, the same doubts, again and again, without giving you a single real answer. And slowly, without you realizing it, it starts affecting everything. Your confidence drops, your decisions get delayed, your energy disappears, and you start feeling stuck, even when you're trying your best. If that sounds familiar, then this is exactly what you need to hear. Because today, you're not just going to understand overthinking, you're going to see it for what it really is. And once you see it clearly, you stop being controlled by it. So before we go deeper, I want you to be honest with yourself. How many times have you replayed a single moment in your head, again and again, wishing you could change it? How many times have you imagined something going wrong, even before it even started? How many times have you delayed something important just because you couldn't decide? And how many nights have you gone to bed tired, but still couldn't sleep because your mind wouldn't stop? That's not thinking. That's overthinking. And it has different forms, different patterns, different ways of controlling you. The first type is something almost everyone is stuck in, and they don't even realize it. Past overthinking. This is where your mind keeps going back to something that already happened, a conversation, a mistake, an awkward moment, a decision you regret. And instead of letting it go, you replay it. You analyze every detail, every word, every reaction. You tell yourself, I'm just trying to understand. But what you're really doing is reliving. Again and again, and every time you relive it, you feel the same emotions again. The same embarrassment, the same regret, the same frustration. The reason this happens is simple. Your brain wants control. It believes that if it can fully understand what went wrong, it can prevent it from happening again. So it keeps going back, trying to fix something that cannot be fixed anymore. But here's the truth. You're not learning. You're punishing yourself. Because real learning is quick. It's clear. It doesn't need repetition. Overthinking the past is not growth. It's attachment. You're attached to a version of reality that no longer exists. And the more you stay there, the more you disconnect from the present. So what's the solution? You don't try to stop thinking. You give your thinking a boundary. The moment you catch yourself replaying something, you ask one question. What is one lesson from this? Not 5 lessons, not a deep breakdown, just one. You take that lesson and you write it down, physically. Because when you write it, your brain understands that it's stored, that it doesn't need to keep repeating it. And then, you let it go. Not because it doesn't matter, but because it's finished. And your life is not behind you, it's in front of you. Now let's move to something even more powerful. Future overthinking. This is where anxiety lives. This is where your brain starts creating possibilities, but only negative ones. What if I fail? What if people judge me? What if I embarrass myself? What if everything goes wrong? And suddenly, you start feeling fear. Real fear. Your body reacts. Your chest feels tight. Your mind starts racing faster. But nothing has actually happened. It's all imagination. The reason this happens is because your brain is trying to protect you. It wants to keep you safe from pain, so it starts predicting worst-case scenarios. It believes that if it prepares you for the worst, you'll avoid it. But instead of protecting you, it traps you. Because you start avoiding action. You start staying in your comfort zone. You stop taking risks, and slowly, your world becomes smaller. Your life becomes limited, not by reality, but by fear. So what's the solution here? You don't fight the thoughts. You shift your relationship with them. Instead of asking, what if this goes wrong? You ask, what can I do right now? Because your power is not in predicting the future, it's in acting in the present. You take one small step, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's imperfect, because action interrupts fear every single time. And once you start moving, the overthinking loses its grip. Now let's talk about something that silently destroys your confidence. Social overthinking. This is when you become hyper-aware of yourself around other people. You start thinking about how you look, how you sound, what you say, how people are reacting. You analyze everything in real time. And because of that, you lose your natural self. You become controlled. You hesitate. You filter your words. You hold back. And then later, you overthink that too. The reason this happens is because you've placed other people's opinions above your own identity. You've made their perception more important than your reality. You're trying to be liked instead of being real. And that creates pressure. Constant pressure. So what's the solution? You shift your focus from how you're being perceived to how you're expressing yourself. You stop asking, do they like me? And you start asking, am I being myself? Because confidence is not built by thinking, it's built by expressing, even if it's messy, even if it's imperfect. And the more you practice that, the less power overthinking has over you. Now let's go deeper. Decision overthinking. This is where you feel stuck between choices. You keep thinking about what to do. You analyze the options. You try to predict outcomes. You wait for clarity. But the clarity never comes. So you delay, and delay, and delay, until the opportunity disappears, and then you regret not acting. The reason this happens is because you're afraid of making the wrong decision. You want certainty, you want guarantees, but life doesn't give you that. There is no perfect decision, there is only movement, and movement creates clarity. So what's the solution? You stop waiting for certainty, and you start trusting direction. If something feels right, even slightly, you move. Because even if it turns out wrong, you learn, you grow, you adjust. But if you stay stuck, you gain nothing. Now let's talk about something even deeper. Identity overthinking. This is where your thoughts turn inward. You start questioning yourself, your abilities, your worth, your future. You compare yourself to others. You feel behind. You feel like you're not doing enough. And slowly, self-doubt grows. The reason this happens is because you're constantly exposed to other people's progress without seeing their struggles. You see their success, but not their process. And that creates a false standard. So you feel like you're not enough, even when you're doing your best. The solution is to bring your focus back to your own path. You stop measuring your life against others, and you start measuring your progress against yourself. Are you improving? Are you learning? Are you moving forward? That's what matters. Because confidence is not something you wait for. It's something you build through action, through consistency, through showing up, even when you don't feel ready. Now here's something important. Overthinking doesn't go away just because you understand it. It goes away when you change your behavior, when you stop feeding it. Because every time you sit and entertain those thoughts, you're strengthening them. You're training your brain to keep going. So what do you do instead? You interrupt it. The moment you notice the loop, you break it. You move your body. You change your environment. You do something physical. Because overthinking needs stillness. It needs you to sit there and engage with it. But when you move, you take control back. And slowly, the pattern weakens. Now, I want you to understand something clearly. Your thoughts are not always true. Just because you think something doesn't mean it's real. Your mind creates stories, and if you don't question them, you start believing them. So the next time your mind starts spiraling, pause and ask yourself, is this a fact or just a thought? That question alone can break the loop, because awareness is power. And once you become aware, you stop reacting automatically, you start choosing, and that's where change begins. Now listen carefully. If you keep overthinking, nothing changes. Your life stays the same patterns, same stress, same hesitation. But if you start acting, everything shifts. Because action builds momentum, and momentum creates clarity. So don't wait to feel ready, don't wait to feel confident. Start, even if it's messy, even if it's uncomfortable, because that's how you break the cycle. And if this is hitting you right now, if you can see yourself in this, don't ignore it. Because awareness without action is useless. And if you want more content like this, content that actually helps you take control of your mind, make sure you subscribe. Because this is not motivation, this is transformation, and this is just the beginning. There's something you need to understand before we go further. Overthinking is not just a habit, it's an addiction. And like every addiction, it gives you the illusion of control. It makes you feel like you're doing something important, like you're solving something, like you're getting closer to clarity. But in reality, you're just going in circles. And the scariest part is, you don't even realize how much time you're losing. Hours, days, sometimes even years, all spent inside your own head. Not moving, not acting, just thinking. And slowly, life starts passing you by. Not because you're not capable, but because you're stuck in analysis. Now let's talk about a type of overthinking that most people never notice. Productivity overthinking. This is when you spend more time thinking about what to do than actually doing it. You plan everything. You organize everything. You watch videos. You make strategies. You prepare, but you don't start. And you tell yourself, I'm getting ready. But deep down, you know the truth. You're avoiding. The reason this happens is because starting is uncomfortable. Starting is uncertain. Starting means you might fail. So instead of taking action, your brain keeps you busy with planning. Because planning feels safe, it feels productive, but it's not progress. It's delay. And the more you stay in that phase, the harder it becomes to start. So what's the solution? You lower the entry point. You stop trying to do everything perfectly, and you start doing something small. So small that your brain can't resist it. One step, one action. Because starting creates momentum, and momentum kills overthinking. Now let's talk about something even more dangerous. Relationship overthinking. This is where emotions get involved. You start thinking about what someone said, how they said it, what they meant, why they acted a certain way. You read between the lines. You create meanings. You assume intentions. And suddenly, your mind builds a story that may not even be true, but it feels real. And because it feels real, you react to it. You feel hurt. You feel confused. You feel anxious, all because of something you created in your mind. The reason this happens is because you're seeking certainty in something that is naturally uncertain. Human behavior is complex. People are not always clear. Not everything has a hidden meaning, but your brain wants clarity, so it fills the gaps with assumptions. So what's the solution? You replace assumptions with communication. Instead of thinking, what did they mean? You ask. Directly, calmly, clearly. Because clarity comes from truth, not from imagination. And if you can't ask, then you let it go. Because not every thought deserves your attention. Now let's go even deeper. Worst case scenario overthinking. This is where your brain becomes dramatic. You don't just think about what could go wrong. You go to the extreme. You imagine failure, embarrassment, loss, rejection. You play out entire negative stories in your head. And by the time you're done, you feel defeated before you even started. The reason this happens is because your brain is wired to detect threats. It's trying to protect you. But in today's world, most of those threats are not real. They're psychological. But your brain doesn't know the difference, so it reacts anyway. So what's the solution? You balance the narrative. Every time your mind creates a worst-case scenario, you force yourself to create a best-case scenario too. Not because it's guaranteed, but because it's possible. And then, you come back to reality and ask yourself, what is most likely to happen? Because most of the time, reality is somewhere in the middle, not the extreme your mind creates. Now let's talk about something subtle, perfection overthinking. This is where you feel like things need to be just right before you act. You wait for the perfect time, the perfect plan, the perfect version of yourself. And because of that, you stay stuck, because perfect never comes. The reason this happens is because perfection gives you an excuse. If it's not perfect, you don't have to start. If it's not perfect, you don't have to risk failure. So your brain holds on to that standard to protect you. But in doing that, it limits you. So what's the solution? You accept imperfection. You aim for progress, not perfection. You remind yourself that messy action is better than perfect delay, because every step forward, even imperfect, is still forward. Now here's something most people don't realize. Overthinking is strongly connected to your environment. If you're always alone, if you're always in your head, if you're always consuming content but not creating, your thoughts get louder, because there's nothing interrupting them. So what do? You change your environment. You spend less time in isolation. You move your body. You engage in real actions, because your mind behaves differently when your life has movement. Now let's talk about night overthinking. This is when everything gets quiet, but your mind gets loud. You lay down, and suddenly your thoughts start racing. Everything you ignored during the day comes back at night, and you can't escape it. The reason this happens is because during the day, you're distracted. But at night, there's nothing between you and your thoughts, so they come out stronger. So what's the solution? You don't fight your thoughts in bed. You prepare before bed. You reduce stimulation. You avoid heavy thinking late at night. And most importantly, you write everything down before sleeping. So your mind doesn't need to hold on to it, because your brain doesn't want to forget. That's why it keeps repeating. But when you write it, It relaxes. Now, let's go deeper into something powerful. Emotional overthinking. This is when your thoughts are driven by how you feel. If you feel insecure, your thoughts become negative. If you feel anxious, your thoughts become fearful. And then those thoughts make your emotions stronger. It becomes a cycle. Feeling, thinking, stronger feeling, more thinking. And it loops. The reason this happens is because you're identifying with your emotions. You think, if I feel this, it must be true. But emotions are temporary. They change. They are not facts. So what's the solution? You separate yourself from your emotions. Instead of saying, I am anxious, you say, I feel anxious. That small shift creates distance. And in that distance, you regain control. Because now you're observing, not reacting. Now here's the truth that will change everything. You will never completely stop overthinking, and that's okay. The goal is not to eliminate thoughts. The goal is to not be controlled by them, to notice them without getting pulled into them, to let them pass without reacting. Because your power is not in controlling every thought, it's in choosing which thoughts deserve your attention, and most of them don't. So stop giving them importance. Stop entertaining every idea. Stop believing every story your mind creates, because your mind is not always your friend. Sometimes, it's your biggest distraction. And if you don't take control, it will keep you stuck. But if you do, it becomes your greatest tool. So from this moment, start practicing awareness. Start catching yourself. Start interrupting the loop, because change doesn't happen all at once. It happens in moments, small moments, where you choose differently, where you act instead of thinking, where you move instead of freezing. And those small moments add up. They build momentum. They build confidence. They build a different life. And if you've made it far enough, then you already know. This is not just information. This is something you need to apply, because nothing changes until you do. So don't close this video and go back to the same patterns. Break it. Right now. Take one action you've been delaying. Do something you've been overthinking. Move. Because your life is not waiting for perfect clarity. It's waiting for you to take control. And if you want more content like this, content that actually helps you break mental patterns and take action, make sure you subscribe. Because this is not motivation. This is discipline. And discipline is what changes everything. Now remember this. Overthinking feels safe, but it keeps you small. Action feels uncomfortable, but it sets you free. Choose wisely.